Hey everyone, Tom here from Hops and Bops. Welcome back to episode 85 of the Hops and Bops podcast. Now I know Mike and Joe aren't here. We had a little bit of a scheduling conflict. I know if you're going to be missing out on their hot action, we're going to be coming back next week with two really interesting albums, so stay tuned for that. But I thought it'd be really interesting if I brought in three different albums that I thought were important that just came out this year. That you should definitely check out, that I don't think I would bring to the podcast as their own episodes, but nevertheless I think are really, really good albums. And those are It's Almost Dry by Pusha T, Who Cares by Rex Orange County, and Learn to Swim by redveil. All very, very good albums. You'll see them on my end of the year list, but figured I'd talk about those three. If you want to change up your style just a little bit from what we usually have, and to pair that, figured can't go wrong with a nice Corona. Classic beer. Didn't want to try too hard. We're gonna have a the standard 𝗀𝗶𝗺 𝗘𝘅𝘁 coming out next week, but had it around the house. It's just a classic staple. This one might be a little rough because it went like cold then hot again. Now it's cold. I had it in my fridge. Does smell a little rough, but I mean it's a Corona. You can't beat it. So cheers if you're drinking along. If not, sorry. Still good. It's still good. Still great. Smooth, crisp. I figured I would go with it because it was just here that I had it. Didn't have to work super hard to go get a different beer just for this. Honestly, it's one of the easiest beers to have, I think. Anyone that you can give a Corona to anyone, especially even we were just at a Russian Lady, which is now the Ukrainian Lady, which is a kind of like a club in Hartford, Connecticut. That's where we're at, and all night I was just like, I had a Jack and Coke that was like a $12 Jack and Coke, like it's a freaking ballpark, and I was just like, well, do you guys have like a beer? I'll take a Corona. I don't want like a Bud Light. That's a little too pissy for me. This is it's a Mexican beer, La Cerveza Más Fina. I had a cutout of a John Gruden, which is the football coach who was advertising. He was the mascot for Corona a while ago, and he kind of became like a staple in our college apartments just because we had him all the time. And he was just sitting there like the corner of all of my apartments. So Coronas were definitely a staple of growing up. In college, even at family gatherings, we'll grab. We just went to my cousin's house, and my dad was like, "Oh, we'll get some beer. We'll get a case of Coronas." And then we got there. My uncle already had a 12 case of Coronas, so it seemed to work out. It's really easy. You don't have to overthink it. It's smooth. It's not too flashy. It's down to earth. Everyone can have a Corona. Even the biggest like beer snobs in the world can have a Corona and still be very happy with it. So you really cannot beat it. I really enjoy it. It's a go-to definitely for me. If you go to a party and they have all these like basic drinks. I know a lot of people like Coors Light or Miller Lite. Excuse me. But I think this is just a staple. It's not a traditional like American style beer, which I think is definitely a plus for its case. Golden, smooth. You can change it up a little bit. Obviously, you put the lemon in there, the lime. I prefer the lime. I didn't have any on hand, surprisingly. But that's what they're giving us at the bar too. And it's great. You can even mix it up a little bit. I've seen people try to kind of do like a DUI kind of thing where they'll make like a tequila sunrise out of it or something. I think I saw a TikTok where they were like, oh, drink a third of it and then you fill the rest with tequila and grenadine and then you mix it up and you got a nice tropical drink. It seems really easy. So it's got a lot of maneuverability with it, and it's just a classic brand. You really cannot beat it. And I know I'm oversimplifying Corona. I mean, if you're watching this and you're of drinking age, you've had a Corona. You know what it tastes like. So I'm going to shut up about Corona, but it's just a fantastic drink. You really... If you're in a more public setting and you don't want to go for like a lager or some weird double IPA, then go with a Corona. I'm not sponsored in any way by them, although I wish I was from all the beer I've drank from them. But yeah, no, it just brings me back a lot of good family memories, a lot of good non-family memories with it too. It's a great beer. Anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this episode. We are going to talk about 3 different albums that I think you should definitely check out that just came out, or at least relatively new, 2022 albums to be specific. I know sometimes, especially on the podcast, we don't really do a lot of newer albums unless they're really, really big and I like it. I know we've done some stuff, especially like my year-end list that I did last time. That was my last solo episode that I've done. But I mean, we've done like 𝗖𝗍_𝗀 and things like that where I really enjoy it and I want to get it out there as fast as possible and it's still relatively fresh. But usually we'll talk more about classics or, smaller artists that came out. But these are pretty big name artists, at least a couple of them are, that I think really do deserve their own spotlight in their own special way. So I'm going to be talking about 3 different albums. The first one is going to be Pusha T's new album, It's Almost Dry. Now, this album is really interesting to me because Pusha T doesn't really do a lot of albums. You'll see, like, people like The Weeknd or even, like, Taylor Swift to an extent. They'll be, like, larger name artists that just pump out albums, within, like, 1 or 2 year turnaround times. Pusha T doesn't really do that too often. He'll definitely hop on a verse from now and then. But in his own personal album cycle, I think his last one was 2018 with Daytona, which was produced by Kanye, which is its own well-celebrated album. But in terms of him releasing albums, this is definitely one that fans have been clamoring about for at least 4 years now. So he was originally in a group called Clips with his brother, who was named Malice. He's a rapper out of, I want to say Detroit, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But his big shtick was that he was a very big cocaine dealer and drug dealer growing up. And so that's how he got a lot of his notoriety and his funds, I guess. So he's kind of built a whole career out of this grimy style of drug dealing bars where he definitely sees himself as like the coke kingpin, but also having this lyrical ability to it as well, which I think is really cool. Definitely, and he's obviously it's a legitimate. He's not just kind of putting up a front. He has reasons that he gives to make you believe this. So, anyway, this new album, It's Almost Dry, came out. This has a lot of production from Kanye West, like I mentioned, and also Pharrell Williams, which is very cool. They both have their own style. Kanye has a little bit more of a soul-style approach to it. Meanwhile, Pharrell, obviously, you can tell which ones are his by like that 4-beat intro that he does that you've seen on many other songs. I mean, even on Frank Ocean's album, Channel Orange, which you just talked about last week, he had a couple tracks on that too that you could tell with the 4-beat intro. But again, a lot of really cool production. Anyway, kicks off with the track Brambleton. Again, I'm not going to go through every single track off of these albums because I'm talking about 3 different ones. They're just kind of smaller, kind of snappier albums that I wanted to go over that I think are definitely worth your time. But tracks that I think stuck out to me, I think that'll be interesting. The opening track, Brambleton, was a really cool track done by Pharrell, where he kind of talks about the personal side of him going to, I like the line, copping quarter pounds from the border towns. I believe Brambleton is a town that he went to. It's a street in Norfolk, Virginia, where Pusha's late mother used to work as a pharmacist technician, where he would go to and, obviously cop cocaine to sell to other people. And I thought that was a really cool, like, powerful intro to the album. Really kicks things off on a high note. I really love that nice, that beat that starts off the entire thing. Very, very running. Then you jump to my favorite track, I think, personally, Dreaming of the Past, with Kanye actually featured on it. This awesome soul-inspired cut, which I actually want to find the name of right now because it definitely deserves its own shout-out. Let me find that real quick for you.
One eternity later.
Okay, so it comes from a cover of a John Lennon song, actually. So it's the sample of Donny Hathaway's 1972 cover of the John Lennon song Jealous Guy. I've actually seen a TikTok where they kind of compare the evolution of music, where they show each track and how much sampling has influenced the rap music over the last couple of generations. Definitely very interesting. Such a cool way to keep the track going. Very, very throwback centric. That I think Kanye really nailed in his early years of production. And again, just a really, really cool narrative to the album. Again, it's kind of the same narrative that Pusha does over most of his albums. This one is a bit more personal because he's getting into his later years of rapping and doing album cycles like this. So I think he does sound a little bit more mature, a little bit more villainous even, very evil on tracks like Just So You Remember, where I think he's just throwing out threats and kind of telling people, hey, don't forget, I am this powerful character, just so you remember who you're dealing with, which is where the title comes from, where he can just say, like, you know, I can have you, you know, killed. I still have shooters out there, basically, is what he's going for. Very underrated track. I think that's probably my sleeper for this album. I don't know if I could give you a least favorite, but you know, I'll give favorite and sleepers. So my favorite is definitely "Dreamin' of the Past" by Kanye. Like I said, Just So You Remember is a great sleeper. I liked the teaser, which was called Diet Coke, which is a kind of a play on ordering like a Diet Coke, but you know, obviously cocaine isn't really like, it will make you a lot skinnier if you do it a lot. So he the hook kind of relates to, you order Diet Coke, that's a joke, right? Which I thought was really cool. The rapping on that is the flow doesn't really have as many lyrical change-ups as I wanted it to, but I really did like the swagger that he kind of puts onto that track specifically. Definitely a highlight. And also a little bit of a sad note on the track Rock and Roll. There's a kind of a separate side beef that I'm not going to get too heavy into. But obviously you know what's going on with Kanye right now and his divorce, which he does reference on both of his features, even on Dreaming of the Past. In a bit more of a controlling way, where he kind of mentions, you know, when the daddy's not home, you know, people are in danger, kind of, you know, manipulation, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but whatever. But on Rock and Roll, this is most likely, unless something happens, gonna be the last feature that Kid Cudi and Kanye do together for a long time, just because of that falling out, and because Kid Cudi kind of got roped into everything when Kanye was just kind of grasping for straws. And this was recorded before that, so Kid Cudi actually came out on Twitter saying, hey, just want to let you know, not okay with Kanye again, but this was recorded before all that, so just want to let you know. So a little bit sad. They've done a lot of really great music in the past, and this track was pretty decent. It's not my favorite, but again, a highlight that I probably should have brought up. And track 10, Hear Me Clearly, featuring Nigo, who I think is the owner of Bathing Apes. If you're not aware, he put out an album, Nigo did, called I Know Nigo, which is basically like a DJ Khaled style like collection of artists that he brought in to kind of push himself out there in the music scene, I guess. And this was a track off of that album, so he basically stole it back so that he could put it on his own release, which is kind of interesting. But I wasn't a huge fan of it to begin with. But you've got like Neck and Wrist with Jay-Z and Pharrell. This, I think, had one of the better features on the album. Jay-Z, in my opinion, had probably the best feature on the album. I really like the line, y'all spend real money on fake watches, shockingly. And he kind of mentions his infidelity. They say the phase I'm on, love, I wouldn't believe it either. I'd be like, Jay-Z's a cheater, I wouldn't listen to a reason either. All I know is he's a felon, how's he selling? All these kind of things. You know, obviously referencing Eazy-E. But again, I really like that. Pharrell really kind of peeks in here and there, adding his own little bits on like the post-chorus and on the chorus. He's kind of neck and wrist don't lie. He's kind of taking over the producer role in a co-role with Kanye on this, so I don't expect him to have a really intricate, deep verse, but I thought that was the best lyrical part of the album, other than Just So You Remember. But yeah, that is the first album that I wanted to talk about. Excuse me, It's Almost Dry by Pusha T. I really, really enjoyed it. Very villainous and dark, and it just came out pretty recently, so I'm still kind of learning about it pretty fresh. Probably one of my more celebrated Pusha T album releases. I did enjoy Daytona when it came out. I was a big fan of that album, but that was a little bit shorter. That was kind of another Kanye produced album that kind of came out in 2018, where Kanye was all about these shorter, like 20-25 minute releases. But it's only 35 minutes, which if you're not really into it, it's in and out, pretty short. Especially, it's 35 minutes is a perfect length for this kind of album, where it's in and out. He has this darker drug dealer persona, even though it's not a persona, he lived with it, abilities to him. It's not overwhelming, not overbearing. Great album if you're driving to work or to some kind of event. You can throw it on in the background and it's not going to be too much for you. It's a great album. If I was to give a number, I'd probably give it somewhere around an 8, maybe somewhere between like a 7.5 and 8. Really good album. You'll definitely see it on my year-end list. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for It's Almost Dry. The next album in our trio of albums I'm going to be talking about is the album Who Cares by 𝗶𝗏 𝗀𝗃. This also came out in 2022. It was a little bit more recently. I think it was probably around February or March. And 𝗶𝗏 𝗀𝗃 is a bit of a different artist, not a hip-hop release, but a bit more on the indie rock side. Not more rock, but I'd probably say straight-up indie. If you're into that kind of thing, and even not, very interesting producer, musician, instrumentalist, vocalist. I originally found out about him from Tyler, the Creator's 2017 album Flower Boy, where he was featured on a couple tracks here and there, and it definitely played into the themes of loneliness and boredom on that album, but I kind of did a bit more of a deep dive. 𝗶𝗏 𝗀𝗃 is definitely a great artist if you want to listen to like summery, happy vibes. Not all of his songs are like that, especially on Pony. I think they're a bit more sadder, but on this album I think he definitely nailed that on tracks like Keep It Up, which was the lead single. More guitar-y and upbeat. Obviously it's called Keep It Up, makes sense. This is I believe it's his 4th album. Tracks like Sunflower and Lovin' Is Easy and Best Friend, I think, really rocketed him to the higher echelon that he's at. Like all of his songs, probably about 8 of the top 10, I think, have over like 100 million streams, which for like an indie artist that only started dropping like not real albums, but at least like more commercially acceptable albums in like 2015, 2017, that era, for him to rise to that level so quickly, I think is really interesting, because no other artist has really done something like that, at least with that level of turnaround. So he's not really going to be like this heavy rock kind of style that you can be into. But I think he is still very, very engaging, very mood-based, I think. Like I said, I think you can experience a lot of different emotions by listening to him. You can either be completely happy or like completely sad, and I think this album still plays into those emotions very well. A lot of different sounds that he brings to this. The one very prominent one that I think was carried over from his last album was these huge string sections, or at least very prominent ones, that play very well into his style of music. They're very moody cuts, but they can also be very swelling, and they play so well into what kind of style of music he's going for. This album even features a song from Tyler, the Creator, called Open a Window, which I believe was the 2nd single. Don't quote me on that, but a great song again. I don't think it's one of Tyler's best verses, but I think the music itself kind of overtakes that. And you can see, like, even on certain songs, you'll have the feature that kind of overtakes everything else. I think Tyler just kind of plays into it very well. He doesn't really steal the spotlight too much from 𝗶𝗏 𝗀𝗃. And it plays super well. It's, again, that same style, that same vibe of not really uplifting, but at least gives you a better mood and a better feeling. I think this album can be very good if you're driving a car with the windows rolled down, going, down the highway, or at least somewhere where you can comfortably roll your windows down on a hot summer day and experience this. So my one, not really gripe, but I guess disappointment with this album, and maybe it'll get used to me as I listen to it more and more, because again, these are very relatively new. is that I think the sound of the album kind of plays, it kind of runs its course after a while. Granted, it is only 34 minutes. It's actually a minute shorter than the last album, which I think is really interesting, that you can get to that level of, not shorter album, but I guess less bloated. And it can still sound like a little bit of repetitive sounds, but it's a good repetitive sound, so you've got that positive to it. I think the front-loadedness of this album is a little bit apparent. You've got Amazing in like the fourth track. Again, also well-fitting of a title. Amazing is an amazing track. But you've got these similar style of string intros that kind of lead into drums and kind of a bedroom pop aesthetic that Rex portrays. And it's a good portrayal, and I really, really do enjoy it. This album, I think, really lays the sweetness on, very heavy, and a bit more of a lovier album than his previous album, Pony. Definitely brings the mood and the vibes up all together, which is a major improvement for me. And yeah, it's just a great album. Go listen to it. If you have the chance to go listen to these albums after this episode, I would definitely recommend this one. It might be a bit slightly lower. I'd probably give it about a 7 range, maybe a 7.5 on a gooder on a better day. Maybe if it's a bit more sunny out. Again, some of these albums are a bit mood based, and you don't necessarily have to agree with me on that. You don't have to be in a cheery mood or whatever you want to be in to experience this kind of album, but it does help. So if you've got that around, then definitely do it. I think my favorite track definitely has to go to Keep It Up. I know I harped on that a lot, but it was the first single that I heard to this. I was definitely hyped about it when it came out, and it just makes me happy. And that's the point of music at the end of the day. You really just want to have some kind of emotion given to you, whether it's happy, sad, angry, excited, scared, whatever it may be. This one evokes the most emotion out of me, and it definitely just puts me in a good mood. If I'm ever feeling down, I feel like I could pop this track on and really, really enjoy it. I think if I want to go sleeper, I'd probably say 1 in a Million. Plays a bit more into that sweetness, like I said before. Bit more of a lovey song if you want to put this on like a love playlist or like some kind of like mixtape. I don't know what the kids do these days. Excuse me. But yeah, 1 in a Million, definitely a bit of a slept on track. If you want to hear something off this album that you might miss if you don't go all the way through, I would definitely say that is the one for that. But yeah, just a fantastic album. Again, you will see this on my year-end list. Rex Orange County, Who Cares is the name of the album. Go check it out. Finally, the last album in this list we're going to be talking about is Learn to Swim by redveil. Now, redveil really only came into my collective within the past couple weeks. I never really heard about him. If you're new to his sound, he is a hip-hop and rapper. He's a hip-hop head, I think. If you find someone that can be influenced by him, I would probably give him more of like a 𝗷𝗏 vibe, maybe like Kanye-esque with the soul-inspired samples. But I do think he is all on his own. And there's something about this album, I'm not sure what it is. I haven't really fully come to reason with it, but it is so, so catchy. Maybe it's these repetitive soul samples, like I said before, that really get stuck in your head. Maybe it's the hooks really get me. I have found myself humming this one more than I do any other album in this list. I really do enjoy it that much. It has some kind of addictive element to it, at least for me, that I really, really enjoy. And I'm not sure what it is. Again, I can't put my name on it. And it's not like it's overly flashy. This one I really do, I would compare it to a Corona, really. There's nothing overly flashy about it. It's just very mellow, very smooth. You can put it on or you can drink it, and it's not gonna take the entire room by storm. It's gonna do its job very, very well, and be done. This does have kind of an overlying theme to it. Learn to Swim. You got tracks like Diving Board. where he talks more about, being pushed into the ocean by his brother or whatever it was, and he would have to learn to swim, which I think can play into narratively, like you're being shoved into a certain scenario and you need to adapt and overcome it just by being in it. You can't like study too much for something if you don't know how to adapt to it on the fly. And I like the hook where he's like, gotta, you're jumping off the diving board, you gotta hold your nose. Again, really, really plays well into his strengths. He doesn't have like a great delivery. I think his voice is a little too generic, but I think, again, it does its job. I found myself putting this on more than any other album too. This album, in at least this year, I believe this is my most played album this year. I could be wrong about that. Let me double check on that though. This is tough to do just by yourself. I definitely miss my boys. So this album, actually, yeah, it is. It is my most played album this year. I played it 159 separate, if you go to last.fm, which I know I tout about a lot, I have 159 what I call scrobbles, which means every track, if I combine all my track listens, there's 159 of them, which is a fair bit. And this album is very, very new. It came out maybe 2-3 weeks ago. And I think it's flown under everyone's radar. This is definitely the most underrated album so far. Definitely needs more attention paid to it because it is a great, great album. It's really good to pay attention to, and it's really good to have on in the background, It's good for long drives, it's good for short drives, it is good for studying, it's good for drinking a Corona in your room alone to listen to, it's good for playing video games too, it's good for taking out the trash. I've done all of these things while listening to this album. I think my favorite track, which I discovered through TikTok, actually, shout out to TikTok, by the way, I'm sure they need my shout out, but that's how I find a fair bit of my new album recommendations, and I think redveil had a TikTok where he talked about this album. He kind of promoted the track PG Baby, which is my favorite track, and that's how I really got into this album. The catchiest hook by far, or not hook, but sample, where he's talking about, you can go your own way or leave me. That one I definitely catch myself singing like in the bathroom or just walking somewhere all the time. I also want to find the sample of who did that. Give me one moment. But again, just a really, really cool track that I definitely enjoy. This is a sample by the soul band Band of Thieves, released in 1976, Love Me or Leave Me, which makes sense. Just a fantastic track. I don't really catch myself listening to his lyrics too heavily. I'll catch like a line here and there, but again, he is kind of like an 𝗀𝘀 vibe where he will kind of have his own flow, maybe a bit more sedated of a vibe. Maybe that's a good thing. I haven't tried doing it. Is doing some kind of extracurriculars to this album, if you know what I mean. But this is his third album, Learn to Swim. I have given his other albums a bit of a shot. Niagara is the other one that I listened to. I did not listen to his first album, but Niagara is also a pretty interesting album. But yeah, PG Baby, my favorite track. I think Working on It was an interesting track too, the closer. There are Brockhampton elements to this too, which if you're not well versed in them, they're kind of a moodier hip hop outfit that just sadly told everyone they were going to be retiring, which is sad, but I think this track symbolizes their discography too, but again, still has that soul twist to it that I don't think a lot of other artists really focus on. And I think it's definitely an interesting blend because he really makes these soul samples his own. He really steals the spotlight from most of them, and I think it plays into his strengths. I don't think he's necessarily has the best voice or whatever you want to say, or the best like narrative or whatever, but his production is phenomenal. I really don't know what I would say is a bad song off of this. I think there are certain elements of each track I think play into each other very well. I think probably Shoulder would be like my sleeper. So I put that one as my sleeper because there are 3 different artists on it. Him, 𝗍𝘳 and Renaissance Mike. I really like the chorus sung by, I'm not sure which one of them it is, but it's the female vocalist is just fantastic. Definitely has like it almost has a bit of a No Name vibe to it as well. If you see, she is one of my favorite artists as well. I definitely love Room 25. Could play well with her on a track too. But this one has probably one of the lower amount of streams on it, so definitely go check out Shoulder. Probably one of my favorites. I found myself, if you're familiar with my 2022 playlist, I put maybe like 3 or 4 songs off of this album specifically on that playlist because I'll just keep listening and go, oh, you know what, that one's pretty good. I could put that on there. But again, like a 35-minute album. I didn't even mean to. I just noticed these right now. These are all like between 34 36 minutes. So even if you're not a huge fan of the style or whatever it may be, it's in and it's out, and you don't really have to, pay too much attention to it. So I think it plays well into those aspects as well. Definitely another driving album too. All 3 of these are pretty good driving albums, I'd say. I do find myself doing a lot of listening in the car, so this one plays into that as well. And yeah, that's probably my favorite out of these 3. It's not my current album of the year. I will be bringing that onto the podcast. Obviously, it's May as I'm recording this, so the album of the year may change for me. But Learn to Swim is my runner-up. It's my number 2 right now. I know Kendrick has an album that's going to be dropping soon, so that may be poorly timed, or it might age like milk. But right now, this is my album, my runner-up for album of the year. But it will absolutely be in my top 10. Like, just a great album. I really cannot recommend it hard enough. I might give it like an 8.5. That could fluctuate more up and down as the year progresses, but I really, really do enjoy this album. And it's got some kind of mystic addiction to it. I don't know what it is, but I just find myself coming back to it over and over and over again. It really, really is that good. So, Learn to Swim, the number 2, all lowercase, by redveil. Really cool newer artist that I will definitely have on my radar going forward. Anyway, that is my list of all of these albums. Again, definitely go check all of them out. I really cannot recommend them more. If I had to rank them as of right now, again, these are, like I said, these aren't my album of the year contenders, but they're close. They're definitely damn close. So I put the Learn to Swim by redveil at my favorite out of these 3. Pusha T's It's Almost Dry, right under that, and then Who Cares by Rex Orange County right under that. They're all very, very close on my list. So definitely go check all of them out. Like I said, I already gave my ratings, but I guess I will give my rating for Corona. This is Corona Extra, not Corona Light, by the way. Just wanted to let that be known because I really don't like Corona Light. But I honestly, there's nothing wrong with Corona Extra. I will get it at a bar. It's so versatile. You can do it with so many other things. You can do it at family gatherings, by yourself, on a boat. I definitely recommend it at the beach. This is a great beach beer. Again, a lot of tropical vibes as well, since it is imported. It's just a fantastic beer. I really can't say more about it. I've got no negatives, only positives, so that only makes sense to give it a 10. There's nothing else I can really give it. I think this is the best beer of all time. And that's not saying, it can be flashier. You can do so many different things with it. It's not, the most complex. That's what I'm trying to say. It's definitely not the most complex, but it's the best simple beer of all time. And it's lasted for so long. I know a lot of people right at the beginning of quarantine were like, oh, corona beer, not gonna buy it. Probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. But I'm happy that I'm drinking this because it's a great beer. You can enjoy it with friends. I've never ever in my life seen a person that didn't accept a Corona or turn down a Corona because they didn't like it. I've never met someone that does that. It's absolutely a go-to beer. If I'm at a brewery, will I try it over other beers that they have? No. But if I'm at a ballpark, or if I'm at some kind of bigger establishment that doesn't have on brewed or on site taps or like handmade stuff that you want to try. And they have this. I mean, this is leagues above like a Bud Light, Coors Light, Miller Lite, any kind of those beers. It's just fantastic. I've got nothing else to say about it. It's a 10. It's I'm not gonna overthink this too much. Great beer. Anyway, let me shout them out because we already do that. Pusha T, he goes on King Push on Instagram, which I just found out. So definitely go check that out. Rex Orange County, I believe, is just Rex Orange County on all of his socials. RexOrangeCounty.com. I believe he's on tour for this album. They might all be on tour. I didn't really check that. But if you are interested going forward, definitely check that out. Redveil, I believe, is just at redveil, REDVEIL, redveil.co. Excuse me, I burped. He's definitely the most underrated out of all of these three, by the way. Doesn't really have too many songs over millions of streams. But then you have Corona. You can just look up Corona. I'm sure it'll come up. Don't try to do virus afterwards. That might be a bit of a giveaway. But yeah, that is episode 85 in the books. You will have Mike and Joe back next week, I swear. I promise it. They will be back. I will see their beautiful faces. It might be a virtual episode just because they're still at school doing other stuff, but we will be bringing a couple of bangers to the table. I guess I'm not sure the order of the two episodes, but I will do my episode that I'm doing first, since I know what it is. I will be doing that album right there, Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar, the 2012 release. I wanted to do all of the Kendrick Lamar albums in order. We did Section 80 a while ago, and I wanted to do this one also because he has an album coming out soon. I will not be doing that album immediately. I really want to, but I wanted to do them in order because I think that's really important. So this is the next one in the list, and it is a freaking banger. So get ready for that. And to pair with that, we have the collaboration, I believe, between Fat Orange Cat and Abomination Brew Co. I have it right here. It is called Evil Orange Cat. I'm very excited to try this. It is a West Coast style IPA. It is 9% alcohol by volume. I wanted to try this out because there's a bit of a West Coast style, and obviously Kendrick Lamar is from Compton, and that is kind of his persona. I feel like they would play well together. So get excited for that. I tried one of them before. They are very, very good. So we will see how the boys like it as well. But that is going to do it for me tonight. Thank you guys for listening so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for letting me do these kind of things by myself. It is just fun for a music nerd to talk about favorite albums of his. So if you want to hear more of me being a music nerd talking about music that I like, go listen to our other previous episodes. We have almost 100. We're at 85. We're very close to episode 100. I'm very excited for that one as well. But go check out the back catalog. We have a lot of really cool, interesting ideas and albums that we've tried before in the past. They are very interesting. I'm very proud of them, so go check those out. And yeah, Hops and Bops podcast on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all these other kind of social media platforms. We're streaming live on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, pretty much everywhere you get your podcasts now. I know we added a whole lot of them. So if you can get a podcast on it, you can probably find us there. Just search Hops and Bops podcast and you will find it there. So thank you guys for watching. For the ghosts of Mike and Joe, I am Tom, and we will see you next time. Peace.